The river was supposed to be a place of peace, a narrow ribbon of moving silver that cut through the dry land like a promise whispered by the earth itself. But that afternoon it felt like the world had turned its back on her, because when she knelt at the water's edge with her sleeves rolled up and her thoughts drifting toward the long road that had brought her here, she had no idea danger was already watching from the trees, measuring her weakness, mistaking her solitude for invitation, and she did not hear them at first. Not the soft crunch of boots against river stones or the low laughter that carried the rot of cruelty within it, because the river was loud, and the sun was warm, and exhaustion had dulled her instincts, leaving only the ache in her legs and the hope that she might rest for a moment before continuing on. And when the first voice finally reached her, too close, too familiar, too wrong, her body stiffened long before her mind caught up, fear blooming in her chest like fire under skin as she turned and saw them. 3 men, rough and unwashed, their eyes sharp with hunger that had nothing to do with food, standing just beyond her reach, blocking the path back to the open plain. And in that instant she understood that the stories whispered at campfires were real, that the world could still be this brutal, this careless with the safety of those who wandered alone. She stood slowly, heart pounding, hands shaking despite herself, trying to keep her voice steady as she told them she meant no trouble, that she would leave, that they should let her pass. But one of them smiled in a way that made her stomach twist, a smile that stripped her of humanity and turned her into something owned, something taken, and his companions laughed, spreading out with lazy confidence as if time itself belonged to them. And the river bore silent witness as panic surged through her like a flood, her thoughts splintering, run, scream, fight. But her legs betrayed her when one of them grabbed her arm, his grip iron hard, dragging her toward the bank while another reached for her hair, and the third kept watch with a knife glinting at his side. Not because they feared her, but because they feared interruption. Her breath tore from her throat as she struggled, nails scraping uselessly against rough hands, and the sound she made was not a scream, so much as a broken plea ripped from deep inside, carried away almost instantly by the rushing water, and for a horrifying moment it seemed the world truly had abandoned her, leaving only pain, terror, and the realization that her strength might not be enough. But fate, it turned out, had been watching too, because from the ridge above the river a pair of eyes had already seen what these men were before they ever touched her. Dark eyes sharpened by war and survival, eyes that belonged to an Apache warrior, who moved through the land like a shadow woven from silence and purpose, and he had followed them for miles, recognizing the stink of violence in the way they walked, the way they scanned the land not for danger but for prey. And when the woman's cry reached him, faint, broken, nearly lost beneath the river, something ancient and unyielding rose in his chest, a force older than anger, older than mercy, and he did not shout his warning or announce his presence, because warriors did not waste breath on men who understood only fear. And so the first sign they had chosen the wrong river, the wrong day, the wrong woman, was the sound of the knife leaving the third man's hand as it was struck from his grip by a thrown blade that buried itself in a tree with terrifying precision. And before confusion could even fully bloom, the Apache warrior was among them, moving faster than panic, faster than thought, dismantling cruelty with disciplined fury, his presence a storm breaking over dry, cracked ground. And the men who had laughed moments earlier now stumbled and cried out, their confidence dissolving into terror, as one fell hard to the stones and another tried to run only to be caught. And she, still shaking, half falling to her knees, could only watch in stunned disbelief as violence meant to destroy her was turned back on those who had brought it. And when it was over, when the river finally knew silence again, the warrior stood between her and the broken men without a word, his breathing steady, his gaze scanning the land to make sure the threat was truly gone, and only then did he turn to her, lowering his weapon, not approaching too quickly, not touching her without permission, because he saw the fear still locked in her body, and he spoke softly in a language shaped by wind and stone, his tone not demanding gratitude or obedience but offering safety. And in that moment, shaken, breathless, alive, she realized she had been spared by something more than chance, something bound by honor and buried rage against injustice. And as the sun dipped lower and the river kept moving as if nothing had happened, her life bent onto a new path, one that would lead her to the warrior's fire, to stories carved in scar and silence, and to truths that would test both of them far beyond this riverbank.